first impression that comes to our mind about any college: tall buildings, big classrooms, large lobby areas, thick books, IT labs, assignments, class tests, and projects. Nothing besides that. Every hour, minute, second spent here help us carving and shaping our persona, cultivating innovative mindsets for the challenging world. Learning is a lifelong process. Sharing knowledge, inculcating values of life, spark the innovative horizons of mind. Fun and frolic is the nature of every nook and corner here. A daily dose of thrill we are sure to get here.
DME was established as an institution for the entire community to come together and excel. We have students who come and learn in a very good facility. We have faculty who are not just well qualified and competent, but are also constantly motivated to teach their best and also pursue research. For well-wishers to come here, for intellectuals to have a place here and contribute in this mission of providing the best education to the young minds in all the courses that we offer: law, media, and management. In making this happen, as the management, we're constantly trying to improve our facilities. Our infrastructure is international in nature. We've tried to bring together all the relevant stakeholders to participate in this mission. We've tried to ensure that the workings and processes of this institute are fundamentally sound. It is our hope that those who have the desire to succeed find a place over here and pursue this goal of excellence. We motivate all of them in achieving this task. If you're associated with DME or wish to get associated, then I welcome you all over here and I wish you all the best.
DME works on a strategy for imparting education. And there are three pillars of this strategy. First is, what is our roadmap for imparting knowledge? Second is, what is our plan for skill enhancement? And the third and the most important part is, what do we do for making the students' attitude corporate ready? Coming to the first part of the strategy, the knowledge imparting part. Well, we have teachers who are well qualified. All my teachers are UGC NET or PhD holders, and therefore the knowledge imparting strategy automatically works in a very good manner. Coming to the skill enhancement part, we have moot courts, we have trial advocacy programs, we have Model United Nations. All these are for the law school. For the media school, we have film festivals, we have visits to the studios, so on and so forth. And when we talk about the BBA program, we have industrial visits, we have management games, and many other things which contribute to the students' skills. The third and the most important part is attitude. Well, we work a lot on the personality of the students so that their attitude is corporate ready. And at the end, having worked on all these three parts of the strategy, we find that the student automatically gets a placement. We have the best corporates in law, in media and management visiting our college and selecting the students.
Make sure that whenever a student is passing out from DME Media School, he is a complete media person, he is a knowledgeable person, he is a skilled person, he is a thoughtful person who is competent enough to take up any job, not only in India, but any part of the world. When we talk about DME Media School, this is a school which provides learning and training which is unconventional, which is very professional, and we try to impart the things which is learning, which is beyond the classroom, which is more skill-based, which is more thought-based, and wherein the students are addressed through their minds and they try to polish their skills. So at the same time, we also try to do something which is out of the box, which is giving an impetus to the thinking of the students, and we also enter into foreign collaborations for this purpose. So the world view is open. Collaborations with so many universities like Deakin University Australia, with UNESCO, with SIMCA, organizations like Delhi International Film Festival or Week Air Festival, so that the students are made ready for the profession, not only for the country, but also outside India, doing the things in a manner which no other students from any other institute can impart.
Hello everybody, I'm Krishna Pandey, Assistant Professor with DME Media School. I welcome all the participants to this Media Matter webinar. In a series of Media Matter webinar that DME Media School is organizing to guide you all to various facets of media and journalism, today we have come up with print journalism. In the journey to media and journalism per se, print is the first step and the most crucial one. It is said that print is the mother of all kinds of journalism, and the road to success in journalism very well begins with print media. So today we will learn about the relevance of print journalism, the skill sets required to make a successful print journalist, what the future beholds for a journalism in print. And who could tell you about all these things in a better way, in the most classic way, is then Professor Amrish Saxena, who himself has a profound experience in journalism, especially in print journalism. Professor Amrish Saxena is a noted media personality and a dean of DME Media School. I welcome you, sir, to this session and hope that students will gain immensely from your knowledge and experience. However, before we begin the session, I would request the participants to identify themselves by writing yes in the chat box. There will be a break of 5 minutes in between during the session itself, whereby the participants will get a glimpse of life at DME. And then the session will be followed by question and answer. Participants are requested to write their questions in the chat box during the question and answer session. Now over to you, sir. Amrish, sir.
Welcome everybody to this session, and as my colleague Dr. Krishna Pandey told you all that this whole session is about the print media. And yesterday we had a session on media basics. And then when we talk about media, then obviously we need to look into different compartments or different parts, like as we commonly understand the print media or the electronic media or the broadcast media or digital media or the film media. So these are the different media or the different channels which are available in the whole world, in the whole spectrum of media. So we decided to have this session right in the beginning after the first session, which was held yesterday on print media, because print media is in any case in the foundation. All other things have been added later. Print media, if we look into the historical perspective, then and then we trace to the history of the modern journalism in India particularly, then it all started in 1780 when the first newspaper started. And from 1780 till 1920, only the print media used to be there in India and in the entire world. Why 1920? Because in 1920 the radio came. Radio came in the world, and in India practically it came in 1927. And when it comes to television, television in India came in 1959. It was a experiment initially, not in the form in which we normally watch television today. And the full-fledged television broadcasting for the common people is started in late 1960s, and with the formal structuring of Doordarshan in 1976. And then digital media came much later, in the later part of the 20th century. And if we also include the films in this whole range of different media, then films also came in the decade of 1910 in India, and in the world also, because films came almost the same time in the world and almost the same time in India. So coming back to print media, why I told you this, so that you get an idea, that the basic understanding as to how old the print media is. And even today, whatever diversification has happened in the print media, whatever diversification has happened in the entire world of media, print media is in the base, print media is in the foundation. So that is how, before we try to understand anything in the world of media, we need to understand the print media. When we say print media, then two things must be understood. Print media means the printed form of publication. The first reference is to that, and then another reference straight comes to journalism, because print media and journalism go hand in hand. What does it mean? This means that the advent of printing happened much earlier. As I told you, that the print media started in India in 1780, and it was not much later as compared to the advent of print media in other parts of the world, that is the Britain and the UK. That also happened in the same century. But as far as the printing is concerned, printing came almost 150 years or so before this 1780 in the world, because it started in Germany, and then after 150 years or so it came to India. But what happened, that initially printing technology and print media, all these developments happened one after another. Firstly, the printing technology came, then the printing machines were set up, and the different kind of printing was being done in those printing presses, and that eventually led to the publication of newspapers. And if I can tell you some very interesting things which have happened in the history in India and elsewhere, but I will precisely will more focus on India, because that will be more understandable to you all, giving your perceptions and giving your whole range of understanding about the things. So in India also, the printing came in the 18th century. But what happened, the British government in India was never interested that the printing should come to India. And in the world also, whenever the printing came, what was the first thing printed? First thing was the Bible. So right from printing, the starting of printing, advent of printing in the world, the first things which were printed were the religious books. And since printing came in the Christian world, so the printing of the Christianity related material. So the Bible was printed first, then the other religious material. This happened in Germany. This happened in India as well. Why in India? Because India was under the British rule, under the alien rule. And that is how, since the British people who were ruling in India, they were British, and the other people who were coming to India from other European countries, they were also mostly Christians. So the Christianity related material was first published. But the interesting, British government in India was never interested that printing or the printing presses should be set up in India. Why? Because the British were very clever. They knew that once the printing presses are set up, then that will be the first point to the start of newspaper. So they decided not to let the setting up of printing press, so there will be no risk involved as far as the publication of newspapers is concerned. But somehow what happened, incidentally, there was a group of this Christian priest. It passing through Goa. and they were taking the ship to Europe from there. But when the whole troop reached Goa, the main priest fell sick. So the whole group stayed for 10 days, 15 days, but then priest did not recover, and finally he died. So the whole plan of going further was aborted, and the group stayed in Goa. So whatever printing material and printing press they were carrying with them, they set up all that there, and that is how the first printing press came in Goa. It was completely unplanned. It was not with the permission with the government, but it happened. So this happened, the printing press was set up. Then initially for about 100 years or so, what I can say, I mean, roughly in 17th century, all printing presses were set up in the south of India, the southern part of the country that we know, and majorly the present day Tamil Nadu, the present day Kerala, these two states. So most of the printing presses were set up in these two states. And here also all Christianity related material was being published, and all those Christian missionaries who had come to India, they were using those presses for the printing of the religious material. But one major problem was being faced by these printing presses, that they were publishing all material in English, and as far as the propagation of Christianity was concerned, nobody knew English in India as far as the native Indians are concerned. So all these missionaries thought that we have to print the material in Indian languages. And what were those Indian languages initially? Firstly, it was Malayalam, then it was Tamil. But then if any of you has a basic understanding of printing, there were no letters. The letters used to be in today's time, if you can equate to understand what is meant by letters, in today's time in computer we use the fonts. So when it was in the metal, because fonts are not in a physical form, we use all this in our computers or in our digital devices, electronic devices. But that time the technology was not so advanced, it was all metal. So these metal typecast was there, and in India there was no facility of casting of letters. There used to be no foundries. So I mean there are certain foundries जो हम simple भाषा में कह सकते हैं कि जो factories थी या जो इस तरह के setup थे जहाँ पे जो शब्दों को letters को ढाला जा सकता था, वो facility इंडिया में नहीं थी. तो जो क्रिश्चियन मिशनरी थी मद्रास में, तमिलनाडु का पुराना नाम मद्रास था, there was a city with the name of Madras which was set up by the British only. So I mean it's not and that time it was a village. It was a village. The British decided to set up the whole habitat and convert it into a city, and that is how that whole city came to be known as Madras. And then thereafter, whenever the state was carved out during the British time, and then after the independence also, the whole state was also called Madras. So the capital of the Madras was Madras till the time the government of India decided, I don't remember exact year, but it happened sometime perhaps in 1980s, around that time, when the name of the Madras city was changed to Chennai. So it became Chennai. So what happened, the Christian missionary which was stationed in Madras, it made a request to the authorities of the East India Company. The East India Company has one major zonal office in Madras. These used to be, these were being called the presidencies. So there used to be Madras presidency. So the Christian missionary officials, they made a request to the officers of the East India Company in Madras presidency that they should be allowed to set up a foundry and cast the fonts, cast the letters. But they were not given the permission. Why? Because the authorities of the East India Company, they were not ready for any printing press operations to start in Madras. And thereafter, initially they were given permission that they can get the Tamil letters, Malayalam letters cast from from England, and then those can be brought from there. But then later on, the East India Company officials gave permission to Christian missionaries to set up foundry, and the East India Company also helped the missionaries to hire the services of some experts in printing who came over, and that is how printing in Indian languages started in India. That was sometime in the beginning of the 18th century. But then this, the British government in India, since if you know that the seat of the power during the British India, in the British India, that was Calcutta, which is now Kolkata. So British government in India, East India Company government in Calcutta, in India, they made it a point that all printing remain confined to the west and the south of India, that does not reach the north or the east of India. Why? Because the East India Company, the east of India was a seat of power. Kolkata was a seat of power, the east of India. And North India was always politically very volatile. So the British government was not taking a chance. But then, so that is how the British government delayed the expansion of printing in India for about a century. But then it eventually happened. The missionary in Calcutta, which is known as, there is a small town near Calcutta, which is known as Shri Rampur. So earlier it was called Serampur. There was a missionary there which was known as Serampur Missionary. It decided to take out a magazine with articles related to Christianity, etc. And they asked the officers of the East India Company in Kolkata to give them the permission, but initially the permission was denied. Later on, the permission was given with some riders that they will publish only all that material which is related to Christianity, and then the printing will not be taken further. This continued, but then there was some gentleman, there was one gentleman with the name of William Bowles, who decided to set up a printing press, and he made a request. He wanted to set up the printing press for commercial purposes. Here also one very interesting thing I can tell you, during all through the British period, whatever documents and other things were to be printed, the British government in India was getting all that printed from England. In India, there were no printing presses set up by the government also. But later on, in the 19th century, the government decided the British government decided to set up the printing presses in India, which many of which are still there, though they have been modified, they have been advanced. These are commonly known as the government presses. Right. So even the British government were not setting up printing presses for their own sake, for their own purpose. So you can understand the intentions of the British in India. But finally, William Bowles tried to set up a printing press, but then he was denied the permission. And this is which happened in 1776. And he was so annoyed that he pasted his letter of grievance on the main door of the East India Company's headquarters in Kolkata, wherein he made all kind of abuses on the officers. He accused them of wrongdoings and all. And this again became counterproductive. The British officers were annoyed, and William Bowles was deported. This is another interesting thing about the British India, that if the British officers of that time, they were annoyed with somebody or with any journalist, in future there are so many instances of this kind we find, then all those people were being deported. So William Bowles was also deported. But then within 3-4 years, another person emerged on the scene. He is known as James Augustus Hickey. So Hickey earlier was working with the East India Company. He had good connections with the officers of the East India Company, and that is how he could get permission to set up a printing press. And he set up the printing press, and then he decided to start his own newspaper. So the same thing happened, which was apprehension of the British, that once the printing press is set up, then the newspaper is eventually published. So the name of the newspaper, which was started by the James Augustus Hickey, it was known as Calcutta Journal and Advertiser. So that became the first newspaper, which came out on 30th of January 1780. Okay, now since that time, for about 20 years or so, all newspapers were in English language, and all people who were associated with the printing and the journalism in India, they were either British or they belonged to other European countries. The first English newspaper taken out by an Indian came out in 1808 or 1809 something. That was in English, but one Indian was involved in the printing. But that was the only case. All foreigners were there in Indian journalism. This also must be understood, that it was a journalism in India, but no Indian was involved either in taking out the newspaper or as far as reading a newspaper. The first newspaper which was taken out in the professional sense, as a professional product, that happened in 1818, and that newspaper is known as this Calcutta Journal. Now this newspaper was taken out by James Silk Buckingham. James Silk Buckingham was again a British by origin. He was a sailor. He finally settled in India. He decided to start his own business, and then he decided that journalism could be a good business. He went to England, got himself trained in journalism, came back to India, decided to take out a newspaper, and this newspaper is considered the most professional newspaper taken out from India, to the extent that even today, even in 2020, we are following the foundation that was laid by James Silk Buckingham in India as far as the major practices of journalism is concerned, whether we talk about the page 3 journalism, whether we talk about the city reporting, whether we talk about the crime reporting, whether we talk about the defense reporting, or whether we talk about anti-establishment reporting. This is a very common term which is used in Indian journalism. What is anti-establishment journalism? Anti-establishment journalism is whenever some journalist, some newspaper, and if we put it in today's context, some television channel, it is publishing something which is against the existing government, right? And that is how we find, even today, though for the last 4 or 5 years, a lot of changes we find are taking place in Indian journalism, but still, Indian journalism right from 1780 till date, because the Hickey also did the same. He was pursuing a journalism of anti-establishment. Anti-establishment, if further I can try to explain to your understanding, is a journalism wherein you are trying to find faults with the government. You are trying to find out what are the wrongs with which the ministers, prime minister, the chief minister, they are involved, and then you are exposing them all. So this is in the roots of Indian journalism. So there is always a different equation between those who are sitting in power and those who are practicing journalism. As I was telling you, this happened from the very first newspaper, which started in 1780, which was taken out by James Augustus Hickey. Hickey took out his newspaper almost 1.5 years, and within 3 or 4 months, he had a head-on with the government, because he started publishing about the corruption of the East India Company officers. Now mind it, this is something which is called investigative journalism. Investigative journalism is, if I can explain you in today's context, suppose you find that the government is making a certain scheme for the people, it would have allocated certain funds for that scheme, and then all that funds are not reaching the people, and there is misappropriation of funds, and you are working as a journalist, you come to know that this misappropriation has happened, you get to all the details, and then you broadcast or publish all those details. This is what is called investigative journalism, wherein you are digging out facts and then you are telling all that to the people. And what is the impact if you are doing this all as a journalist? This will be a deterrent for the government. The government will think 10 times before doing any corruption because they know that some journalists will dig this out and then it will be told to the people. So investigative journalism is, in a way, keeps the people under check, those who are sitting in the government. It keeps the corruption under check. Now, why I told you this all? This will build a basic understanding in your mind that journalism is a profession which is done for the sake of journalism in India. And very interesting fact, if you have not noticed, now I draw your attention to this point. Who are the father or the founding fathers of Indian journalism? Firstly, James Augustus Hickey, then James Silk Buckingham, right? Both were British. The government were of the British. The Christian missionaries were also Europeans, but they took side with the people and they took a stand against the government. Right? So this is what journalism is. So if you want to join journalism, because when I say print media, because then straight reference is that you might be working as a professional journalist, working in some newspaper or in a news magazine organization, and all through Indian history. 1780 to 1947, because politics and history go hand in hand. And particularly if we look into the development of journalism in 20th century, when I say 20th century, I'm referring to period between 1900 to 1947. The last 47 years or 45 years to India's independence. And then politically, if we go a further backward, then obviously we can trace this year from 1885 when Indian National Congress was set up. So the period between 1885 and 1947, this is very crucial for India's freedom struggle, from attainment of independence, political independence from the British rule, and also from the angle of the growth of Indian journalism. The whole growth, the actual growth of Indian journalism happened during this time. I mean, there are a lot of things in history, but I am cutting short the whole of the history to the extent that you understand the basics. So I'm not talking about the whole of the journalism which happened in the 19th century. I'm straight coming to 1885 because that's a landmark year since Congress was set up that year. And the important people who rose on the map of Indian journalism, and those were the prominent political leaders also. These were Lokmanya Bal Gangadhar Tilak, who was a very prominent political leader and who for the first time gave the slogan that Swaraj is our birthright, independence is our birthright, Swaraj hamara Janm Siddh Adhikar hai. And he was a very prominent journalist who was taking out to newspapers, Kesari and Maratha, and finally he suffered because of his writings and he was sent behind bars for his writings, which according to the then British government were falling under the category of sedition. Sedition is which is Deshdroh. Incidentally, this whole law is existing even in independent India, and even in the 21st century, journalists are being booked, people are being booked under this law, though this was a law which was brought by the British to teach a lesson to Indian journalists. and a clause was added for this purpose in Indian Penal Code IPC, which is called 124A. This is about sedition. So who were the victim of sedition, of this criminal offense as per the British because of this amendment in IPC? Firstly, Lokmanya Tilak, who was a prominent political leader and who was a prominent journalist. Another person who suffered because of this was Mahatma Gandhi, who was a very prominent political leader, and who was also a very big journalist. Right now, but then that was the British time. But then what we can trace from that, nowadays also there are a lot of politicians who are into media business, but we cannot draw any parallel from Lokmanya Tilak and Mahatma Gandhi to what the present day politicians are doing in media. In today, the politicians are doing all this media business so that they can have something to cover up. They can exert some pressure on the government to get the things done which they want to done to their commercial interests, to their benefit. So that way the things have changed. But then again, journalism is the same, despite certain things happening during the last few months, where in the for a few years, where in the government, the existing government, it is trying to pull the media organizations or the journalists for their own sake, for their own interest. But even the crux of journalism is that it is a profession which is for the benefit of the people, for the good of the people, and those who pursue the profession of journalism, they are always ready to do anything for the cause of the journalism, for the sake of the people, because ultimate goal is to keep the people informed and to benefit them whichever way it is possible. So now the audience which is there in this session, if you want to pursue journalism, and that too in newspapers, you must make sure that it's a very great profession. It is a profession which cannot be compared with any other profession, because you are doing the real service to the society. So all those who are interested in making a career in journalism, or for that you want to firstly educate yourself, train yourself in media, in journalism, then obviously nothing like that, but come with that kind of mindset wherein you are looking for an occupation, you are looking for a profession. That is, in any case, has to be there. There is nothing wrong in that. But then if you want to do something good for the society, something good for the country, something good for the mankind, then this is something which you should join. And since the print media is in the foundation, so obviously you can join any newspaper, any magazine. In India, obviously, if we look into the independent India after 1947, looking into the growth of the print media in India, in independent India, the growth was pretty faster in 1950 and 60s and 1970s. But then, obviously, anytime the time changes, even during the last 3 months, we are watching this, how the time is changing. Time changes, whether it is because of the political situation, the change in the political situation, or whether it is because of the other social factors which are happening. And if I refer to what is happening in the country and in the world since March, because of these health factors. And this is something which is not new. Earlier also, India has been facing the epidemics, and lakhs of people had died in India, and in Europe also, a lot of such incidents have happened. So things change. Technology changes, and because media is something which is completely based on technology. So yesterday also I told about the importance of technology. Again, I would like to insist on the importance of technology. Media is completely dependent on technology. In other words, I can tell you this, the kind of technology which is existing at any point of time, accordingly the shape of media will be. What does it mean? I can explain you in very simple terms. Initially, when print media came in India and elsewhere also. The printing technology was in a very nascent stage. As I was telling you, there used to be physical fonts and there used to be printing presses, which were called the treadle machines. Then other kind of machines came, but the printing process was very slow. As far as the typesetting was concerned, obviously after this metal typesetting, the other typecasting machines also came up, which we call the lino and the mono machines. So printing had undergone various changes, but the real breakthrough happened in the printing technology. That happened in the last part of the 19th century. And that is how initially only the monthly newspapers were being published, whether we call the newspapers or magazines, they used to be monthlies. Then there came the fortnightlies, then there came the weeklies, but that was the periodicity. No daily newspaper concept was there in the world and in India, because there were no such printing presses which could print newspaper in bulk, in large number, with a high speed. That was not there. But once rotary printing machine came, then the daily newspaper also started. Now you understand the relationship. The rotary printing machine came, so the daily newspaper started, because then it was possible to mount the broadsheet daily on that machine and print the newspapers in a high speed. Right, so this rotary machine remained there for very, very long. I can tell you roughly more than 100 years. No major revolution happened for about 100 years or so. But then what happened? Another technology came, which is prevalent even today, that we call the offset printing technology. So offset printing came. Now offset printing brought a revolution in print media. Now, and for the last 25, 30 or 40 years, we find, if today's, I can give you example of today's time. Nowadays, there are such offset printing machines which can print 50,000, 60,000, 70,000 newspaper copies in an hour. Now you can imagine that if 4 or 5 hours printing means at least 3-4 lakh rupees, 3 to 4 lakh newspapers are published. That is becoming possible because we have technology in our hand. And the most latest example, if I can tell you about technology. Now we have the technology that I'm sitting at my home and you are sitting in your home and we are interacting. Now you can understand the importance of technology. Till few years back, this was unthinkable. Same is with radio, same is with television. When this whole terrestrial broadcasting happened in India, the broadcasting which started with the help of the transmitters, then the radio broadcasting happened. When television came, television also came with terrestrial broadcasting, but with the help of transmitters. But then when the satellite came, the TV broadcasting revolutionized, and then whole broadcasting switched over to satellite. So all this dish services or the cable services that we started doing in 1980s, and then thereafter this whole dish, etc., the service that we take, whether it's Dish TV, whether it's Airtel Dish, and all these service providers are there. So technology made a revolution, and then the revolution which is happening in internet. Internet has changed the complete fabric of the entire world. And what is happening in the internet? It is because of the internet, this IPTV came, this internet protocol TV came. It is on this technology basis that Jio came. Nowadays, we are enjoying the entertainment programs on all OTT platforms. This has happened because of this change in the technology. It is with the help of this internet and internet-based applications that, using this Zoom application on cloud, we are able to talk to. So this whole cloud technology came. So whatever technology we talk about, it is all about technology, and it is with the help of the technology that even in print media, you might be a print media journalist working with a newspaper, right? But if you write a report, if you write an article, now that piece of your writing will be put by your newspaper on its website. So whatever you wrote for Times of India, it is taken to the Times of India website. So what does it mean? This means this segregation of different media platform, that is also not happening. So though I am precisely trying to talk about the printing and the print media and journalism, these are the broad areas which I try to cover. I am repeating this so that you understand what all I have talked about, because I have talked so many things. But if I tell you what all I have talked about, I have talked about the advent of printing, the evolution of printing and the growth of printing in India. I have talked about how with the help of printing the newspapers came, and how with the changes in the printing technologies there was a growth of newspapers and magazines in India. And now I am telling you that with the help of this technology, whatever your media content are there, which might be on the print media platform, they are also available on the digital platform, because of this multiplicity of media, or we can call it the multimedia platforms which are available. So that compartmentalization is no more there, wherein you decide that you are a print journalist, or you are a digital journalist, or you are a TV journalist. But then print is the base. Print is the base in the sense that the basic things never change. What are those basic things? Now I will tell you some other things. So you can treat it as another segment wherein I am telling you something about the operational part. What is the operational part? If you're working in a newspaper, what kind of jobs you are handling with. You are either working as a reporter, or you are either working as editor, I mean working on the news desk, editing the copies. These are the two broad activities that you do in a newspaper or in a magazine organization. If you want to work in media, print media, if you want to become a print journalist. But then there are some non-journalistic jobs also in a newspaper. Non-journalistic job means wherein you are doing something for wherein you are doing something sorry, there was an interruption. Operational part I was telling you, wherein you are doing either the editing job or you are doing the reporting job. So that is the basic journalistic job, and there are certain non-journalistic work also in a newspaper, like you might be working on the production side, wherein you are handling the production of a newspaper, which also involves printing. But when we say production, that is the right from page making to the plate making to the printing and all. I mean, the whole operation is part of the print production. So there is a scope. You can even opt for that, though very little number of people opt for that, because either people do not have an understanding about that, or people do not prefer taking up that job, because journalism is something which is seen. Your work is seen, your stories are read, and then people react to that. And if you have written a good story and you are getting a good feedback, then that will be to your contentment. You will feel happy that people have read your story and they acknowledge what all you have written. So obviously that is more gratifying. So you can take up the job of a journalist in a newspaper organization. So this is all which I tried to explain in brief, in nutshell, because it is not possible to explain everything in 30 or 40 minutes. And I think I have spoken more than 40 minutes or so. So now I can invite the questions, because that will be better to explain if I get to know what all your queries. Krishna Pandit.
Sir, I see the director sir is also here. Sir, welcome to this webinar. So before we go for question and answer session, There will be a brief interval of 5 minutes where the participants would get to see the glimpse of DME. I request now Ritvik sir to start on the videos.
At Delhi Metropolitan Education DME, we have an excellent infrastructure. We have a studio for production which is known as Studio 62. It was inaugurated by Tigmanshu Dhulia, who is a noted filmmaker. And within the studio, we have so many facilities. We have a chroma setup, we have a news setup, we have a chat room setup. And since floor is splendid, we can shoot any kind of program. We also have a separate radio studio.
And we have also organized Mega Film Festival SIFI and International Conference ICANN and received lots of films and received lots of paper in that conference.
For a college, the software is very important. In my college, the software comprises of three things. First is the teaching. Second is the research, and third is the mentoring. With the help of these three softwares, we train a student in such a manner that placement is just a byproduct.
One of the essential features of Law School at DME is its well-equipped moot court. Since its inception, DME has organized several moot court competitions and workshops just to enhance the mooting skills, which have been conducted under the distinguished guidance of various luminaries from bench, bar and academics.
Judicial Training Academy is the most shining feature of Delhi Metropolitan Education, Noida. We have a huge library to help out our students with more than 15,000 books, including Helsbury's Laws of England.
DME has a very robust library infrastructure that not only caters to the curriculum needs of the students and the teachers, but also provides a great academic ambience. The library is equipped with latest books, journals and other e-resources.
At DME, we not only believe in academic excellence, but we also provide platform to students to showcase their talent through big open amphitheatre, beautiful auditorium, multi-purpose seminar hall, equipped with world-class facilities. Recently, we have conducted Cultural Fest Aloha in January 2020 and Anugunj, that is the Universal IP Fest, in February 2020.
DME from past 2 years, and this lockdown has made me realize how important and crucial college life is to me. I miss going to college, I miss my friends, the fun, the lectures and everything. The most important thing which I miss is attending and managing the events. I hope everything gets settled soon. I would like to thank all my faculties for being so supportive and cooperating with us throughout the lockdown. I hope we get back to our normal lives very soon.
This quarantine has made me realize that how important my college life is and how important DME is to me. I miss my college friends, dance performances, practices, attending classes. No doubt our faculty is just amazing. They are teaching us in a great way. They are very helpful. But yes, I miss DME.
The times have gotten real hard as the whole world was in lockdown. But the faculty here at DME kept supporting and motivating us throughout, emotionally as well as academically. I'm glad that I'm a part of DME. Also, I miss going to college and meeting all my friends and taking the lectures.
These 2.5 months have made me realize that how important college life is. And of course, I miss all of whatever we did in these 2 years, attending classes, fun, friends and everything. In this lockdown, though it wasn't like a lockdown because our faculty is so honest with their work, so punctual. They took classes, and as soon as the classes ended, they were up with the assignments. And then again, this FER, the internship thing. So we didn't miss that part, but then the fun of having things in person and going to college and doing things is, of course, is what I miss a lot. I hope things will be fine soon. So yeah, stay safe.
Welcome back, everybody. Participants, I hope you are identifying yourselves with the big yes in the chat box. So now we are ready for the question and answer session. Sir, there are a few questions lined up, and one of them I'm taking one by one. So the very first question when you started this session came was, which were the first newspapers of the world? So your voice is not coming.
Sir, if you can please take off your earphones.
It's fine now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I don't remember exactly the first newspaper. Might be sometime in the middle of the 18th century, sometime that. But certainly I don't remember exactly the name.
Sir, there are other questions also. One of the participants wants to find out if to choose a profession, which is the better option, print, broadcast, or digital?
It's your choice. It all depends. I mean, it's completely one's choice. Nothing can be prescribed. But then it all depends. What are your capabilities? What are your skills? What kind of planning you would have done about your career, or what interests you more? Because I have found people who are who feel more pleasure in writing, they always opt for print media. Or those who want to get satisfaction that they can sit and write, and then it could be a good piece which they themselves enjoy, which they feel that others can also enjoy. But then the people who are more concerned for their appearance, more concerned for outward living, and they feel that they should also be seen on the screen, people should know them, then obviously you can have a choice for television. But it's completely up to you to decide.
So related to this question is, what are the challenges a print journalist faces in a digital era?
Challenges?
Yes, what are the challenges a print journalist can face in today's time, especially when everything is going digital?
There are some common challenges which were there in 1780, which are there in 2020. One challenge is there that you must be daring. So you should not be a person who is scared of anything. If I can explain further, you should not be scared of the government. कि मैंने ये लिख दिया तो कोई मंत्री नाराज हो जाएगा या कोई politician नाराज हो जाएगा. That is one. You should not be frightened of the mafias and the criminals, because a lot of your writings would not be liked by the criminals. तो फिर उनके हिसाब से आपको नहीं लिखना, वो challenge है आपके पास कि आपसे criminals से डर के आप नहीं लिखेंगे, वो challenge है. And then there is also a challenge, and which is comparatively a bigger challenge. That challenge is that if you are not well versed with the things outside, if you are not a knowledgeable person, then you will do a lot of damage to the society. That's also a challenge. And the challenge is, if I can put it in proper terms, the challenge is how to overcome your ignorance. So that's the biggest challenge. So you have to decide कि आप अपनी अज्ञानता से कैसे लड़ेंगे. आपको सबसे पहले अपनी अज्ञानता से लड़ना पड़ेगा अगर आप मीडिया में काम करना चाहते हैं और पर्टिकुलरली जर्नलिज्म का ही प्रोफेशन अपनाना चाहते हैं. तो पहले अपनी अज्ञानता से लड़िए, अपना ज्ञानवर्धन करने की कोशिश करिए, नॉलेज एक्वायर करिए. उसके बाद हिम्मत जुटाइए, एक निडरता लाइए, किसी से भी मत डरिए. आपको जब लगता है कि आप ठीक हैं, आपने जो लिखा है ठीक लिखा है, आपने जो बोला है वो ठीक बोला है, तो फिर आप ये मत सोचिए कि कौन आपसे नाराज होगा और किसकी गाज आपके ऊपर गिरेगी. और बिकॉज इट्स अ रिस्की प्रोफेशन. रिस्की इन द सेंस कि अगर आप बहुत स्टेबल जॉब चाहते हैं, बहुत ट्रबल फ्री जॉब चाहते हैं, कमरे में बैठ के 10 to 5 का जॉब करना चाहते हैं, और अपने दिमाग को ज़्यादा इस्तेमाल नहीं करना चाहते, नई चीज़ें नहीं सीखना चाहते, नया काम नहीं करना चाहते और सोसाइटी के लिए कुछ करने की चाहत आपके मन में नहीं है, तो फिर मीडिया आपके लिए नहीं। तो अब आप समझ लीजिए कि आपके सामने किस तरह के चैलेंजेस हैं अगर आप मीडिया में आते हैं।
सर इसी से रिलेटेड एक और सवाल है जिसमें कि पार्टिसिपेंट ने पूछा है कि बहुत सारे अखबार जो है वो गवर्नमेंट की लाइन को टो करते हैं, दे आर प्रो गवर्नमेंट, एंड इफ समबडी वांट्स टू राइट अगेंस्ट द गवर्नमेंट देन दैट पर्सन इज इन प्रॉब्लम, सो व्हाट शुड द पर्सन डू एंड हाउ ही शुड रिपोर्ट अगेंस्ट द गवर्नमेंट?
ये थोड़ा सा कंफ्यूजिंग है, अगेंस्ट द गवर्नमेंट और सपोर्टिंग द गवर्नमेंट, ये थोड़ा मिसलीडिंग कंसेप्ट्स है, ठीक है। I give you one or two very small examples which are understandable. Suppose कि मैं रिपोर्टिंग में हूँ और मैं PWD की बीट कवर करता हूँ, right? There is a flyover which has missed its deadline. उसको बनना था 2015 में, 2020 में भी नहीं बना। उसका कॉस्ट एस्केलेशन हो गया, 100 करोड़ की लागत पे बना था, 200 करोड़ खर्च हो गए, अभी तक नहीं बना। और मुझे सारे फैक्ट्स पता है, दीज आर फैक्ट्स, और अगर मैं लिखना चाहता हूं तो मैं पहले फैक्ट्स गैदर करूंगा, कॉस्ट एस्केलेशन की बात, डेडलाइन मिस होने की बात, कौन से ऑफिसर थे, किसके समय में अप्रूवल हुआ, किसके समय में डिले हुआ, ये सारी चीजें मैंने की। उसके बाद मैंने एक स्टोरी लिखी। अब ये स्टोरी तो सरकार को पसंद नहीं आएगी और आप इसको सामान्य भाषा में कहेंगे कि मैंने गवर्नमेंट के अगेंस्ट में लिख दिया, लेकिन मैंने गवर्नमेंट के अगेंस्ट में नहीं लिखा, मैंने जनता के फेवर में लिखा। जनता के वो जो फ्लाईओवर 5 साल पहले बन के मिल जाना चाहिए था वो नहीं बना। क्यों नहीं बना, मैं सामने लेके आया, विच इज फैक्ट बेस्ड, लेके आया। उससे क्या हुआ, सरकार के ऊपर दबाव बना और सरकार को लगा कि पब्लिक ओपिनियन उसके अगेंस्ट में हो जाएगी, लोगों को पता लग गया, तो वो सरकार 6 महीने में उस फ्लाईओवर को बना के दे देगी। तो मैंने तो सबका फायदा किया एज ए जर्नलिस्ट, जनता का भी फायदा किया, फ्लाईओवर बन, मेरे लिखने से फ्लाईओवर जल्दी बन गया। सरकार का फायदा किया कि सरकार जो इन एक्शन के मोड में बैठी थी, निष्क्रियता के मोड में बैठी थी, मेरे लिखने से सरकार सक्रियता के मोड में आ गई और सरकार ने काम किया जो उसे करना चाहिए था। तो ये सरकार के अगेंस्ट में कैसे हो गया? तो ये मिसलीडिंग है, अगेंस्ट और सपोर्ट वाला। हाँ, अगर मैं सपोर्ट में हूं तो मैं क्या करूंगा, मैं लिखूंगा ही नहीं। मुझे पता होगा फिर भी नहीं लिखूंगा, क्योंकि मुझे लगेगा मैं लिख दूंगा तो सरकार के खिलाफ हो जाएगी, सरकार के लोग नाराज हो जाएंगे, सरकार के लोग बुरा मानेंगे, तो मैं लिखूंगा ही नहीं। और अगर मैं लिखूंगा नहीं तो इसका मतलब मैं जर्नलिज्म कर ही नहीं रहा। जर्नलिज्म में जो कुछ भी है वो जनता के हित में है, सरकार के फेवर, सरकार के हित में नहीं है। ये पूरी तरह से गलत कॉन्सेप्ट है। आप इस तरह की विचारधारा, इस तरह की धारणाओं से बचिए अगर आपके दिमाग में ये है। जी
सर, तो इन एंटी एस्टैब्लिशमेंट जर्नलिज्म और क्रिटिकल जर्नलिज्म में क्या फिर डिफरेंस हुआ? यू आर क्रिटिकल, एट लीस्ट यू आर क्रिटिसाइजिंग द एंटी एस्टैब्लिशमेंट।
नहीं, एंटी एस्टैब्लिशमेंट सिंपल भाषा में है जहां भी आप सरकार की कमियों को उजागर कर रहे हैं। तो जो मैंने एग्जांपल दिया, आपने सरकार की कमी तो उजागर की। आपने बताया कि सरकार नहीं बना पाई फ्लाईओवर, आपने बताया कि सरकार हेल्थ फैसिलिटी का इंतजाम नहीं कर पाई जो उसका प्राइमरी काम है। आप ये लिख रहे हैं कि सारे बेड्स कम पड़ गए हैं तो सरकार ने एडिशनल बेड्स का इंतजाम नहीं किया, सरकार ने एडिशनल दवाइयों का इंतजाम नहीं किया, तो सरकार की कमी है, एंटी एस्टैब्लिशमेंट हो गया। बट वो टर्म में एंटी एस्टैब्लिशमेंट डेफिनेटली इस्तेमाल करते हैं, लेकिन वो सरकार के लिए नहीं। क्योंकि जैसे अभी आप देखिए दिल्ली में क्या हो रहा है, दिल्ली में पिछले 1 हफ्ते से पहले जिस तरह से केसेस बढ़े, सरकार कुछ नहीं कर पाई, केंद्र सरकार सीन में आ गई, गृह मंत्री सीन में आ गए, तमाम एडिशनल इंतजाम हुए और केंद्र सरकार के जवाब में के सीन में आने के बाद रेलवे के हॉस्पिटल्स उपलब्ध हो गए, केंद्र सरकार की और फैसिलिटीज उपलब्ध हो गई, रेलवे के डिब्बे उपलब्ध हो गए जहां पे हॉस्पिटल्स और क्वारंटाइन सेंटर्स बन गए। तो ये सब हुआ। ये कैसे हुआ? क्योंकि मीडिया ने धुआंधार लिखा कि दिल्ली की हालत खराब है और कुछ नहीं हो रहा है। तो मीडिया तो सर्विस कर रही है अपने अगर आप इसको एंटी एस्टेब्लिशमेंट मानते भी हैं तो इस एंटी एस्टेब्लिशमेंट जर्नलिज्म से हम तो सरकार की जर्नलिस्ट तो सरकार के हित में काम कर रहे हैं, लोगों के हित में काम कर रहे हैं, और यही जर्नलिज्म है, यही जर्नलिज्म है। जी
सर, one of the participants wants to know which is a more balanced newspaper,
नहीं, बैलेंस कुछ होता नहीं, बैलेंस कुछ भी नहीं होता, बैलेंस कुछ भी नहीं होता। बैलेंस जो कॉन्सेप्ट है जर्नलिज्म में वो पुराना हो गया। आप या तो व्यवस्था के साथ हैं या व्यवस्था के विरोध में, बैलेंस नहीं है। अगर दिल्ली में लोग मर रहे हैं कोरोना से, अस्पतालों की हालत खराब है, सरकार कुछ नहीं कर पा रही है, अब आप इसमें बैलेंस क्या लिखेंगे कि कुछ तो सरकार ने कर दिया, कुछ नहीं कर पाई, यही बैलेंस? ये बैलेंस नहीं है, ये तो आप फिर खिलाफ काम कर रहे हैं लोगों के। बैलेंस होता नहीं, जो है वही आपको लिखना है। अगर अस्पतालों की हालत खराब है तो आपको यही लिखना है कि अस्पतालों की हालत खराब है, भले ही वो सरकार के खिलाफ जा रही हो स्टोरी, इसमें बैलेंस हो नहीं सकता। जी।
So another participant says, between Hindi and English newspaper, which has a better prospects from 2020 to 2050?
हिंदी न्यूज़पेपर्स का हमेशा बेटर प्रोस्पेक्ट्स है। कल भी मैंने इस बात को बताया था, इस देश का जो एंटायर मीडिया है उसमें अंग्रेजी का जो परसेंटेज है वो नहीं के बराबर है, वेरी नेग्लिजिबल, whether you talk about the newspapers or whether you talk about television channels। और पूरे देश में आप हिंदी की बात कर लीजिए, हिंदी के ही न्यूज़पेपर पढ़े जाते हैं, हिंदी के ही चैनल देखे जाते हैं, या हिंदी और अन्य भारतीय भाषाओं के, अन्य भारतीय भाषाओं का मतलब हुआ कि तमिल में, तेलुगु में, कन्नड़ में, मलयालम में, गुजराती में, मराठी में, बांग्ला में, असमिया में, जहां पर जो जहां रहता है उसी भाषा का अखबार पढ़ता है, उसी भाषा का चैनल देखता है। अब जैसे आप तमिलनाडु चले जाइए, आपको हिंदी चैनल देखने वाले हैंडफुल लोग मिलेंगे, सारे लोग तमिल चैनल देख रहे हैं, सारे लोग तमिल न्यूज़पेपर पढ़ रहे हैं। तो प्रोस्पेक्ट्स किस में है? प्रोस्पेक्ट्स हिंदी और अन्य भारतीय भाषाओं में है, चाहे वो प्रिंट मीडिया की बात हो, चाहे वो रेडियो की बात हो, चाहे वो टेलीविजन की बात हो। अब रेडियो ले लीजिए, दिल्ली में 14 प्राइवेट FM चैनल हैं, 1-2 चैनल को छोड़ के जिनके प्रोग्राम्स, काफी प्रोग्राम्स इंग्लिश में है, म्यूजिक इंग्लिश का इस्तेमाल करते हैं, बट सारे 24 आवर्स चैनल्स हैं और सारे हिंदी में। इसी तरह आप प्राइवेट FM स्टेशन अगर कर्नाटक में होगा तो उसके प्रोग्राम कन्नड़ में होंगे। तो जो भी भविष्य है, वो भविष्य का, वर्तमान और भविष्य दोनों, वो भारतीय भाषाओं का है, अंग्रेजी का नहीं है। अंग्रेजी में आपको बेटर प्रोस्पेक्ट्स नहीं मिलेंगे करियर वाइज, लेकिन मैंने कल भी इस बात को कहा था, लेकिन आप किसी भी भारतीय भाषा, हिंदी या भारतीय भाषा में काम करना चाहते हैं, आपकी अंग्रेजी अच्छी होनी चाहिए। क्यों? उससे आपके पास नॉलेज के दरवाजे खुले रहते हैं, समझ आपकी बेहतर होती है, आपका दायरा बड़ा होता है, और आप अंग्रेजी के ज्ञान न होने की वजह से फंसते नहीं हैं। क्योंकि जर्नलिज्म में बड़ी प्रॉब्लम है, आप हिंदी अखबार में काम करते हैं, आप चीफ रिपोर्टर हैं, आप न्यूज एडिटर हैं, आप बड़ी पोजीशन पे हैं, और कल को पता लगा कि US प्रेसिडेंट का विजिट हुआ, प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस हुई, आपको बुलाया गया, आप बहुत सीनियर जर्नलिस्ट हैं, हिंदी न्यूज़पेपर में काम करते हैं, बड़ा आपका नाम है, अच्छा लिखते हैं, लेकिन आपको अंग्रेजी नहीं आती। अब आप उस प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस में आप क्या करेंगे, आप मुझे बताइए, कैसे सवाल पूछेंगे? तो आपको अंग्रेजी आनी ही चाहिए, या इसको दूसरे अर्थों में, आप दूसरे तरीके से अगर मैं कहूँ, तो आपके पास एक भारतीय भाषा होनी चाहिए, हिंदी या अन्य भारतीय भाषाएं, और एक अंग्रेजी होनी चाहिए। अंग्रेजी इसलिए, दूसरी भाषा भी हो सकती है, स्पेनिश भी हो सकती है, अंग्रेजी इसलिए कि हम एक ब्रिटिश कॉलोनी रहे हैं, हमारे देश में अंग्रेजी बहुत अच्छी तरह बोली, पढ़ी और समझी जाती है, और दुनिया के नक्शे पे भी इंग्लिश जो है एक बड़ी भाषा है, तो आप आधी दुनिया में इंग्लिश के बदौलत काम कर सकते हैं। तो इसलिए अंग्रेजी आपको आनी चाहिए, लेकिन अंग्रेजी ना होना, ना आना कोई डिस्क्वालिफिकेशन नहीं है। अंग्रेजी आना एक क्वालिफिकेशन। इज इट क्लियर? ये नए लोगों को बहुत स्पष्टता से समझ में आनी चाहिए। मैं इसको रिपीट कर देता हूं, अंग्रेजी नहीं आना डिस्क्वालिफिकेशन नहीं है, लेकिन अगर आपको अंग्रेजी आती है और आप हिंदी के पत्रकार हैं तो वो आपकी क्वालिफिकेशन है, और वो आपको औरों से आगे ले जाएगी। ठीक है कृष्ण जी।
Sir, one of the participants wants to know how one should prepare for print journalism. कैसे तैयारी की जाए प्रिंट जर्नलिस्ट बनने
बस पढ़ाई करिए, दैट्स द ओनली थिंग। सिर्फ पढ़ाई करिए, जो हाथ में आए पढ़िए, जो भी समझ में आता हो पढ़िए। रोज न्यूज़पेपर्स पढ़िए। न्यूज़पेपर से मतलब ये नहीं है कि आप हार्ड कॉपी पढ़ें, आप उसकी डिजिटल कॉपी पढ़ लीजिए, आप उसकी वेबसाइट पे चले जाइए, आप 10 अखबारों की वेबसाइट पे जाइए, 10 चैनल्स की वेबसाइट पे जाइए, न्यूज़ में अपडेट रहिए। तो पहली चीज तो अगर आप प्रिंट जर्नलिस्ट बनना चाहते हैं तो न्यूज़ में अपडेट रहिए, करंट अफेयर्स में अपडेट रहिए, फैक्ट्स आपके पक्के होने चाहिए, डेटा जर्नलिज्म का जमाना है, फैक्ट्स फिगर्स एक्यूरेट होनी चाहिए, आपके पास तथ्य होने चाहिए, तथ्य सही स्रोतों से होने चाहिए, सही सोर्सेज से होने चाहिए, आपके पास कोई बायस नहीं होनी चाहिए, आपके पास कोई पूर्वाग्रह नहीं होनी चाहिए, आपकी किसी खास विचारधारा से प्रतिबद्धता नहीं होनी चाहिए, आपको किसी पार्टी का कैडर नहीं होना चाहिए, आपके कोई निहित स्वार्थ पत्रकारिता में आने के पीछे नहीं होना चाहिए, आपकी एकमात्र इच्छा समाज के लिए कुछ करने की होनी चाहिए। और आप ये बेसिकली यही चीजें जरूरी है प्रिंट जर्नलिस्ट बनने के लिए। इसके बाद अगर आप कुछ भी पढ़ते हैं, आप चाहे उपन्यास पढ़ते हैं, चाहे बायोग्राफीज पढ़ते हैं, ऑटोबायोग्राफीज पढ़ते हैं, किसी भी तरह की पुस्तकें पढ़ते हैं, तो जब आप पढ़ेंगे, पढ़ने से आपकी भाषा समृद्ध होगी, आपकी भाषा रिच होगी। तो जब भाषा रिच होगी तो जब आप लिखने बैठेंगे तो आपके पास एक शब्दों का भंडार होगा। अगर लिखने के लिए क्या जरूरी है, आपके पास भाषा जब हम कहते हैं होनी चाहिए, तो आपको व्याकरण आनी चाहिए उस भाषा की, और आपके पास आपके शब्दों का भंडार होना चाहिए। और ये अगर दोनों चीजें हैं, और तीसरा आपके पास कंटेंट होना चाहिए। कंटेंट मतलब वो पढ़ने लिखने से आएगा, आपके पास तथ्य हो और आपने कुछ पढ़ा लिखा हो, ये सारी चीजें तो आप सबसे अच्छा लिख सकते हैं। बस मेनली यही चाहिए प्रिंट जर्नलिस्ट के लिए। पढ़ने लिखने की अभिरुचि बहुत जरूरी है। पढ़ने लिखने में अभिरुचि नहीं है तो फिर जर्नलिज्म आपके लिए नहीं।
सर इसमें एक सवाल और भी आया है कि जो कोविड-19 के टाइम में प्रिंट छपना बंद हो गए थे, ये आपने कल भी बताया था सर, चूंकि सवाल है तो मैं पूछ देती हूँ। तो सर्वाइवल अब आगे के टाइम में प्रिंट का सर्वाइवल क्या है, कैसे आप देखते हैं इसको?
नहीं, प्रिंट हमेशा रहेगा, डिजिटल में भी प्रिंट ही है। प्रिंट हम डिजिटल पे भी पब्लिश ही करते हैं, तो एक कॉमन है, बस एक ही फर्क है सिर्फ प्रिंट और डिजिटल के बीच में। अगर आप प्रिंट न्यूज़पेपर में काम करते हैं तो आपने एक रिपोर्ट लिखी, वो अखबार के पन्ने पे छपी, लोगों ने उस छपे हुए पन्ने से पढ़ी। डिजिटल में है तो वो क्या होगा कि आपकी रिपोर्ट डिजिटल प्लेटफॉर्म पे जाएगी, लोग वहां पढ़ेंगे, लेकिन आपको रिपोर्ट तो लिखनी ही है। रिपोर्टर को, एडिटर को रिपोर्ट एडिट करनी ही है, बस वो छपी नहीं किसी कागज पे और वो वेबसाइट पे, उस न्यूज़पेपर की वेबसाइट पे चलेगी, तो उससे कोई फर्क पड़ने वाला नहीं है। बस एक ही चेंज आया है कि इंडिया अब तक दुनिया से अलग चल रहा था, अब दुनिया के साथ आ गया। पहले क्या हो रहा था कि पूरी दुनिया में प्रिंट के अखबार खत्म हो रहे थे बहुत समय से, और सारे अखबार डिजिटल पे आ रहे थे, चाहे वो न्यूयॉर्क टाइम्स हो, चाहे वॉशिंगटन पोस्ट हो, कोई भी अखबार हो। सारे लोग अपने मोबाइल फोन में ही पढ़ते थे अखबार, कोई हार्ड कॉपी बहुत कम लोग खरीदते थे। ये पहले ही हो गया था, वेस्ट के वर्ल्ड में हो गया था, इंडिया में नहीं हुआ था। इंडिया में सरप्राइजिंगली प्रिंटेड एडिशंस की संख्या बढ़ती जा रही थी, वो अब नहीं होगा, वो अब नहीं होगा, और डिजिटल पे अखबार ज्यादा आ जाएंगे, तो कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ा। पहले जॉब्स अखबार में थे, अब जॉब्स डिजिटल में आ जाएंगे, वही जॉब्स। तो जॉब का नेचर बदल जाएगा और कुछ नहीं बदलेगा।
सर दो पार्टिसिपेंट्स का सवाल मिलता जुलता है, मैं दोनों को एक साथ ही ले लेती हूँ
जी।
एक ने पूछा है कि हमने देखा कि जो
मेरे ख्याल में आप जो पार्टिसिपेंट्स हैं उनके नाम भी बताएं तो बेहतर होगा।
अच्छा
जी,
एक्चुअली मैं लिख ले रही थी। इसमें जो है मिस्टर अंबुज करके उन्होंने पूछा है कि जो कोविड-19 की रिपोर्ट्स जो मिस हैंडलिंग ऑफ रिपोर्ट्स जो है मीडिया में काफी कवर हुई है दिल्ली की, पर ये अहमदाबाद की इस तरह से कवर नहीं हुई। तो और दूसरा सवाल इससे रिलेटेड जो है
अहमदाबाद से क्या कवर नहीं हुआ?
जो मिस हैंडलिंग ऑफ कोविड-19 का जो गवर्नमेंट दिल्ली गवर्नमेंट के थ्रू हुआ था, वो दिल्ली के बारे में उसका बहुत कवरेज आया, पर वो सेम सिचुएशन अहमदाबाद के बारे में उस तरह की कवरेज नहीं आई।
ये किसने पूछा है सवाल?
तो ये मिस्टर अंबुज है मेरे ख्याल से।
नहीं, ये प्रोस्पेक्टिव स्टूडेंट है कि क्या है?
पार्टिसिपेंट है ये। और दूसरा उससे रिलेटेड सवाल आया है जिनका मैं नाम अभी देख लेती हूँ। ये उन्होंने पूछा see what is the morality and penalty behind misleading information.
जिसने भी ये सवाल पूछे हैं बहुत अच्छे सवाल पूछे हैं, और अगर ये लोग प्रोस्पेक्टिव स्टूडेंट हैं तो मैं ये कहूँगा इनको बिना सोचे समझे सीधे बीजेएमसी में एडमिशन ले लेना चाहिए आके, क्योंकि जो लोग ऐसे सवाल सोच सकते हैं दिस मीन्स दीज पीपल आर कट आउट फॉर जर्नलिज्म, ये जर्नलिज्म के लिए ही बने हैं। तो दिमागी तौर पे जो लोग, बाकी लोग भी इस सेशन में वो इस बात को समझ सकते हैं कि दिमागी तौर पर जो ऐसा सोच सकता है वही जर्नलिज्म में आने की क्वालिफिकेशन रखता है। चलिए ये सवाल
सर, ये हमारे एक फैकल्टी हैं गुंजन सर, उन्होंने ये सवाल पूछा है आपसे।
अच्छा, हाँ, तभी मुझे आश्चर्य हुआ कि प्रोस्पेक्टिव स्टूडेंट ऐसा सवाल नहीं पूछ सकते,
लेकिन जो
थोड़ा सा मुश्किल है, थोड़ा सा मुश्किल। इसके लिए बहुत डेप्थ चाहिए। तो ये जो भी सवाल है, इस सवाल का जो जवाब सोच के सवाल पूछा गया है, मैं उस जवाब के साथ हूँ। ये इंडियन मीडिया की डार्क साइड है, और ये कैसे है ये मुझे भी समझ में नहीं आता। मैंने 20 साल सक्रिय पत्रकारिता की है और उसके बाद से 20 साल से मीडिया के शिक्षण में हूँ, लेकिन ये बात मुझे भी समझ में नहीं आई कि ऐसा कैसे हुआ या ऐसा कैसे हो सकता है कि एक स्टेट जहाँ पे हालत बहुत खराब है उसका कवरेज बहुत ज्यादा हो, और एक कवरेज जहाँ हालत उससे भी ज्यादा खराब है उसका कवरेज ही नेशनल मीडिया में ना हो। ये मेरे लिए भी मिस्ट्री है, और ये इसलिए और मिस्ट्री बढ़ जाती है कि गुजरात का कवरेज मैंने सारे टीवी चैनल्स चेक किए हैं, कोई भी कवर नहीं करता गुजरात को। इसलिए नहीं करता क्योंकि कवर करेगा तो बताना पड़ेगा वहाँ क्या हो रहा है, और वहाँ की स्थिति खराब है ये भी बताना पड़ेगा, तो वो बताते ही नहीं कि गुजरात में क्या हो रहा है, वो इसको स्किप कर देते हैं। और लगभग सारे चैनल्स ने गुजरात को स्किप किया, लगभग सारे न्यूज़पेपर्स ने गुजरात को स्किप किया, डिजिटल मीडिया और सोशल मीडिया ने स्किप किया। ये कैसे हुआ, ये रहस्य है, इसका जवाब मेरे पास भी नहीं है, क्योंकि इतने ऑर्गेनाइज तरीके से खबरों को कैसे रोका जा सकता है ये आज के जमाने में समझना मेरी समझ से परे। और दूसरा सवाल आपने क्या पूछा, जो एक तो ये था, और
सर वही मोरालिटी और पेनाल्टी
नहीं, मिसलीडिंग इंफॉर्मेशन। देखिए, मिसलीडिंग इंफॉर्मेशन पे बहुत बात होती है, और ये सवाल है तो इस संदर्भ में मैं ये बताना चाहूंगा कि पिछले 3 महीने में फेक न्यूज का जो नंबर है वो अनप्रेसिडेंटेड तरीके से बढ़ा है। फेक न्यूज हमेशा से प्रॉब्लम रही है, उसके रूप बदलते रहे हैं। आज से 200-300 साल पहले वो येलो जर्नलिज्म था अमेरिका में, फिर वो प्लांटेड स्टोरीज आई, अब वो मिसलीडिंग इंफॉर्मेशन आ गई, मिस इन्फॉर्मेशन आ गई, डिस इन्फॉर्मेशन आ गई, फेक न्यूज आ गई। नाम बदलते रहे, कॉन्सेप्ट बदलते रहे, बात एक ही है। बात क्या है कि जहां पर आप ऐसी खबर लिखते हैं जो तथ्यों पे आधारित नहीं है, आधे अधूरे तथ्यों पे आधारित है, चाहे आप अनजाने में ऐसा करते हैं या जानबूझ के करते हैं, आप किसी निहित स्वार्थ की वजह से करते हैं, आप ऐसा करके कोई फायदा उठाना चाहते हैं, किसी को नुकसान पहुंचाना चाहते हैं, या सिर्फ मजा लेना चाहते हैं, आप सैडिस्ट हैं, दूसरों को परेशान करने में आपको अच्छा लगता है, गलत खबरें फैलती हैं, लोग चिंता में पड़ जाते हैं तो आप इंजॉय करते हैं, आप अपने पॉलिटिकल अपोनेंट्स को परेशानी में डालना चाहते हैं, आप अपने विरोधियों को नीचा दिखाना चाहते हैं, या आप पत्रकार हैं तो अपने आपके साथ जो साथी पत्रकार हैं उनको फंसाना चाहते हैं कि देखो मैंने स्टोरी लिख दी, तुम्हें तो पता ही नहीं चला, जबकि आपको पता है कि आप एक गलत स्टोरी लिख रहे हैं। तो इन किसी भी वजह से आप कर रहे हैं तो ये आप समाज का, देश का, सबका बहुत बड़ा नुकसान करते हैं। किसी को ना तो गलत जानकारी पर आधारित सूचना को आगे ले जाना चाहिए, और न ही ये पत्रकारों पे लागू होता है जो कंटेंट क्रिएटर हैं या जो डिसेमिनेटर है उन पे लागू होता है, इसके साथ ही साथ ये उन पे भी लागू होता है जो बिना देखे भले जो चीज आई उसको आगे बढ़ा देते हैं। व्हाट्सएप है, फेसबुक है, और वो कभी भी क्रॉस चेक नहीं करते। अब पूरा कॉन्सेप्ट ही आपको पता ही है, फैक्ट चेकिंग का आ गया है, तो हमेशा फैक्ट चेक कर लेना चाहिए। जर्नलिस्ट को भी कुछ लिखने से पहले फैक्ट चेक करना चाहिए। आप रिसीवर हैं इंफॉर्मेशन के, तो जब भी इंफॉर्मेशन आप है ये क्रॉस चेक करने के बहुत सारे तरीके हैं, उतने विस्तार में आज हम नहीं जा सकते, लेकिन एक बहुत सामान्य तरीका है कि कोई खबर है और आपको विजडम आपकी जो आपके पास है उससे आपको लगा कि कुछ गड़बड़ है, तो आप दूसरे अखबार में पढ़ लीजिए, तीसरे में पढ़ लीजिए, एक जी की आप वेबसाइट पे गए, एनडीटीवी की वेबसाइट पे भी चले जाइए, टाइम्स ऑफ इंडिया की वेबसाइट पे भी चले जाइए। अगर आपको लगा कि सब जगह अलग अलग खबर है तो समझ लीजिए दाल में कुछ काला। तो थोड़े से एफर्ट्स करने पड़ेंगे आपको बचने के लिए कि आप गलत जानकारी का शिकार न हो जाएं और लोगों को भी गलत जानकारी न परोसें।
सर सवाल तो आते ही जा रहे हैं, पर आई थिंक हमारे पास समय की कमी हो रही है। आखिरी एक सवाल ले लूंगी, आकाश हैं जो बार बार सवाल पूछ रहे हैं, वो
जी
कॉर्पोरेट जो है मीडिया को किस तरह कंट्रोल कर रहा है आजकल?
कारपोरेट मीडिया से तात्पर्य है, जो लोग नहीं समझते पहले वो बता देता हूँ। जब हम कहते हैं कारपोरेट मीडिया तो इसका अर्थ क्या है? स्वतंत्रता से पहले तमाम लोग ऐसे लोग अखबार निकालते थे जो देश की आजादी के लिए कुछ करना चाहते थे, हथियार से नहीं लड़ सकते थे, सड़क पे आके नहीं लड़ सकते थे, तो अखबारों से लड़ते थे। अकबर इलाहाबादी का बहुत कॉमन शेर है कि जब तोप मुकाबिल हो तो अखबार निकालो, तो अखबार से लड़ते थे आप। उसके बाद फिर लोगों ने पत्रकारिता को प्रोफेशन बना लिया और तमाम अखबार मालिक ऐसे हो गए जो देश हित के लिए अखबार निकाल रहे थे। अल्टीमेट ये था कि देश आगे बढ़े, देश का रिकॉन्स्ट्रक्शन हो, देश आगे जाए, तो मुनाफा था, क्योंकि अल्टीमेटली इट वाज ऑलवेज अ बिजनेस, इट इज अ बिजनेस। बट देन मुनाफाखोरी नहीं थी, मुनाफा एकमात्र उद्देश्य नहीं था, तब तक भी ठीक था। लेकिन 1990 के बाद जब ये ग्लोबलाइजेशन का दौर आया और चीजें रिलैक्स हुई, कारपोरेट सेक्टर आया, कारपोरेट सेक्टर के अंदर जब अखबार आ गए, कारपोरेट सेक्टर का मतलब जब जो भी कंपनीज हैं वो कारपोरेट हाउसेज हैं, उन्होंने अखबारों का मालिकाना ले लिया, उनके लिए सिर्फ और सिर्फ मुनाफा है। तो जब अखबार मालिक के लिए, अखबार चलाने वाली कंपनी के लिए सिर्फ मुनाफा ही एकमात्र उद्देश्य है, तो ऑब्वियसली वो उनके यहाँ जो पत्रकार काम कर रहे हैं उनकी भी देखभाल ठीक से नहीं करेंगे, उन्हें अच्छी वर्किंग कंडीशंस नहीं देंगे, उन्हें अच्छी सैलरी नहीं देंगे, और मुनाफा कमाने के लिए कुछ भी करेंगे, चाहे उन्हें गलत खबर चलानी पड़े, चाहे कुछ भी करना पड़े, वो करेंगे। सरकार के पक्ष में खबरें चलाएंगे और सरकार का विज्ञापन पक्का कर लेंगे, किसी और कंपनी के फेवर में चलाएंगे, वहां से अपना विज्ञापन पक्का कर लेंगे। जो कंपनी उनको विज्ञापन नहीं देगी उनके खिलाफ खबरें चलाने लगेंगे, जिससे वो कंपनी दबाव में आके उस चैनल या उस अखबार को विज्ञापन देने लगे। ये पूरी तरह से माल प्रैक्टिसेस हैं, गलत तरह की चीजें हैं जो कॉर्पोरेट्स करते हैं, और कॉर्पोरेट्स के हाथ में जाने से मीडिया का काफी नुकसान हुआ है, मैं ये कह सकता हूँ।